I was born into an English family of lower middle class. My mother was, and is, a housewife, and my father worked at an electronics company. He is now a lecturer in engineering electronics. My father came from a Catholic background and my mother a Protestant. Both shared a short stint in the Quaker Church in the early 1970s, but at the time I was born, there were strong atheists and religion was no longer mentioned in our house, even less practiced. My parents had decided that if she wanted to be religious when she grew up, they would be supportive. Since I was very little, I believed in God, even though I was not brought up with that belief, but still thus had the feeling that what was taught in the Christian school that was not correct. I didn't believe in Jesus or the Holy Spirit, and all this seemed false to me, but at school we were told that it was the only way and all other religions were wrong. So, I was very confused. When you're a kid, you assume that adults they are always right an exception. What they say is valid. Still, I couldn't let it go. So, probably from in a very wise way, I decided to keep my belief in the one God private. I felt guilty for believing something that was wrong. I felt ashamed and waited and prayed that she might stop being a heretic soon. When I was young, I was very exposed to the fear of the Islamic fundamentalism, especially with the issue of Salman Rushdie in the minds of the people. I was very afraid of Muslims in general. There were 2 Muslim children in my primary school, but kept their beliefs private, except that the child was more likely to be as a young man, Ali, refused to pray in assembly. I had always prayed to God to show me the right path, and I turned to God for help. No, there was doubt in my mind that God existed when I was 11 or 12 years old. In high school I began to realize that, perhaps, my belief in God was not wrong. At that time I had not really heard of Islam. Everything what he knew about it was that it was a violent religion that dealt with the women as scum. We were taught in the school that Islam was propagated by the sword, in other words, through means of violent and forced, that women in Islam were symbolized personal possessions for his clothing, and that the Muslims worshipped Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I was really bored, and every time that he saw a Muslim woman when she was shopping in Manchester, there are few Muslims in my area, thought, how can you do this to yourself? She was very angry. However, we have been taught one thing that is true, that Muslims believe in a single God, something I honestly didn't know before that. I searched in all the other religions, Judaism, Hinduism, and Buddhism, but they all seemed so made by the and contradictory. However, one day, I don't know what happened to me, simply I thought I had to check if what I had been taught was true or not. Also, I was curious because I had been told that Muslims believed in one God, and I wanted to see if it was true or not. I saw a book called Elements of Islam in the local library and secretly picked it up. I went straight to the About section. I was absolutely surprised by what I read. It was contrary to what they had taught me about Islam and women, and better than anything I had ever heard. I had no doubt in what I read. I knew it was true, and I knew in the deep in my heart that all my prayers had been answered. Islam, it was the truth I had been searching for all my life. I feel bad for feelings like this, the old guilt of my days of mine primary school. How could I believe in this wrong religion? Tried find evidence to prove me that Islam was not the truth, but was impossible. All the books that said negative things about Islam, I already knew that they were lying. All the books that said positive things about the Islam, I knew they were telling the truth. I decided that I must be a Muslim, although I couldn't accept it, and I didn't tell anyone. I read all the books that I was able to get it. I got a translated copy of the Quran from the library, but I could understand it because it was all in Old English. That didn't discourage me. I knew it was just a translation, and what I could understand from it pleased me very much. He knew that Islam was a lifelong decision, that there was no turning back, so I really wanted to be sure. I studied for 2.5 years before walking into a chat room in January 1997 that would change my life. The chat room on an Islamic website, and the people were very helpful. The second time I entered, I did the Shahada, declaration of faith that makes someone a Muslim, before people all over the world.